Since all day long because he's ridiculous. He's awesome. He's ridiculous awesome. Yes. Yeah.
Affirm yourself while in it. That can be so tough because you hear this all day of all the negative and like the soundtrack you were referring to, but to really say out loud and speak against those things,
Mm-hmm.
that it's so powerful in itself and it's necessary. It's like really necessary, because the text, like you said, it becomes harder, especially when you're doing it God's way and you're on His path.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your advice for those who are watching, who are young or old, or anyone who's watching? Like, what would be your advice to take away from like just sharing part of your story with?
Gosh, I mean, we all have a story. That's the thing here. We call them testimony story. Take the time to listen to each other's story because you matter. What you've been through you matter, and it's we know that we've gone through things, and we just can't stay there. In order for us to evolve and grow, we have to our circle of influence and our accountability friends and partners have to hold us accountable from a place of love. But I would say to definitely choose and pick your friends wisely. And they're not that they're agreeing with you, but more importantly, that they're helping you grow and evolve and encouraging you.
That's
I
good.
that I mean, like that's so important. And I also would want to say that tomorrow is a new day. So it's new, and it's when you wake up in the morning, new grace and mercy. Filled with new possibilities and opportunities, blessings, signs, and wonders. Pay attention. You can't worry about what happened 3 seconds ago, let alone 30 years ago, 5 years ago, last year, last month. It's a new day. You can choose because it starts and begins with you. We can look at everybody else. We've all had misfortunate situations and experiences, whatnot, but it's how can I choose to respond differently? They may have issues and challenges, but if am I praying for them or am I talk about them?
Right.
Am I praying? Am I sending them up
That's
to
good.
heaven and ask God to step in and intervene? Or am I talking about it and picking up the phone? Before you pick up the phone and talk about anybody, you need to pick up the G phone, the God phone. Go
Yes.
to Him.
That's
He
it.
will, I
That's
promise.
what you said. That
Yes,
was
I
it.
said it's about this relationship before I can have this
Yes.
relationship. And that's important because we're humans. Nobody's perfect, but be mindful of our other sisters and our other brothers that struggle and have gone through things. And even if you don't get it or understand it, you don't have to take it on, but just pray for them.
Yeah.
Just pray for them.
I love that you mentioned that. Um, that was something in this season that was has been big on my heart. Like when you talked about the being careful who's the friendships that you have, and the accountability that you are going to gain from those friendships too. Um, at least you should have in your friendships. Um, when you see other people going through something, not to talk about it and sit around and talk about it, but really intervening for others and being able to
Mhm.
pray for them and actively pick up the phone and call them if you are able, being able to even do
That's so
that,
good.
because you just never know what that person need. And I think that's been, I can't stress enough how that's important for me, or a lesson that I've learned. Being the age I am now today at 21, I didn't know that back then. When I go beginning of college, when I want to talk
Yeah.
about my beginning years of college, I will, as soon as something happens, if something happens, I will be saddened and feel as if I gotta vent to my other friends about the situation, and think that's okay, when in reality the problem was bigger, than me, and that person was going through something, and how
Mhm.
that didn't have to include anyone else. I could have simply prayed for them. And so I think that's a huge thing that I carry with me today. Is just like really look at something for what it is, and not being quick to talk about it, but being able to pray
Yes.
over that situation has been a learning thing for me, in this semester, definitely.
think that that's good, Brittany. And thank you for doing that, because I want to say, it gets easier and life gets easier as we grow older, but girl, it doesn't. It doesn't. People, there's broken people. And until we center ourselves and surrender it to God, we're always going to interact with those people. And those lessons are, lessons that we learn over time. And I, applaud you for having that, being mindful of, they could be going through that, because I think we're addressing things on a whole nother level with mental health. And I used to think that, people used to say, oh, when you say that some mental health, they think, straitjacket, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like, no, I said, mental health is anxiety. It's stress. It manifests into depression. And then it's those things. And so we all experience that in life, and we've got to rally around each other, and you've got to know that you can feel safe with whomever you're sharing something with.
And not feeling,
yeah,
will I experience condemnation or shame or guilt, but will I be, if I leave from this conversation, will I walk away feeling empowered or encouraged to change that behavior of mine, or to change myself, or to be more like Christ? And so I think that's the thing. Like, what do you want the outcome to be for that person's life? Do you want it to be good? How can you contribute to that? And being able to really come alongside someone else and be able to be with them in it and praying for them is very necessary. Like, especially, we don't know who's going through anxiety behind closed doors. We don't know who's going through depression behind closed doors. But what you do know is that there's power in the what we say. And so being careful how we use our words and how we uplift other people around us is necessary for our country alone.
To bring unity. I mean, we need unity. I mean, that's the key. And I would also, I mean, we've got to come together, all walks of life, and as human beings. But I would also, just be mindful to say that it's like, pick the people that you're around. I go back to that. And sometimes new levels brings new relationships. Not everybody's supposed to go with you to the same, in the same season, perhaps. There's some that stay with you for a long time, but be okay with being pruned. When people are pruned and people are being removed, God's going to bring more people that will fulfill the emptiness of that removal. But that's not to say that some people you won't go back and be with them again. I always say, don't pick it up yet. But God sometimes will take you away, right? He takes you away to fill you back up, to grow you, and he might take you again to go back to that same person, because you're at a different place, they're at a different place.
That's
and
so real.
to be open to receive, because we can't receive certain things from people that are closest to us. I always say, I love my son, means the world to me. I said, but I will speak. I used to say anointing and call on his life. I don't say those words anymore. I don't even say a ministry. I'm like, just do whatever your circle of influence is, make sure that you're encouraging and empowering them. But I would tell him, all these things and pour into him. And I always said, a complete stranger on the street would be able to say almost verbatim what I say. And he'd be like, Mom, did you get that? This person's great. I don't care how they get the revelation of knowing who they are in God. I just want them to get the revelation and to be set free and to be delivered from some of the strongholds that we all experience, or the bondage that we all live in, right?
We all need each other.
Yeah.
We need each other.
Yes.
So there are many women and girls, young girls, and who find themselves in a cycle of being in a relationship, that God already called done. But, they keep going back. They in this cycle, this constant cycle. And you wrote in the book that you sent me, sometimes they may not be right for you, but they may be right for somebody else. So my question was it hard for you to let go? And then how were you able to let go of something you really wanted? What was that turning point?
Oh gosh, that's such a great question. I was engaged 3 times and never been married. I'm still waiting for my Boaz. No, but I know God has. So I'm saying that to sit there and say, young or old, I don't care who you are. Uh the people that I had dated where they were good people. We all experienced different things at different times. And I could have stayed in one relationship and was bought everything. You've got the Mercedes, you got the nice clothes, the red bottoms, you got all these things. But then they cheat on you. And I put up with that for a long time, thinking, again, I could change them. And also fear of what society would think. You're this old and you're not married yet. What's wrong with you? Right? It's like, well, there's nothing wrong with me. And you go into another relationship and you're like, oh my goodness, they're just okay. They have to love God, right? The foundation. And I mean, I always say he's got to love God more than me, and that's going to be hard. No. So we can serve him together independently, but together, and we're all, serving each other. And so the other relationship, which was hard because I was getting older, and I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, do I just marry him just because I need to be married? Society tells us that we're supposed to be married. And if you're not married, there must be something wrong with you. Mm-hmm. And I sit there and say, earlier on in my life, it's like, I'm so thankful that I didn't, get married per se, because I didn't even know who I was. Mm-hmm. I was still growing as a human being, as a young lady. Again, I was like the runaway bride that, I don't know if anybody's ever seen that movie, and it was with Richard Gere and Julia Roberts, and she was called The Runaway Bride. Mm-hmm. And Richard Gere was a journalist, and he's like, why does this woman just keep running? And he did an example of how she ran in her life. In every relationship, he asked her ex-fiancés how they made their eggs, how they would eat their eggs. One was eggs Benedict. One was, over easy. One was fried, one was scrambled. And that's how she would eat her eggs. However, her significant other was eating his eggs. Meanwhile, she didn't even like eggs.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So we lose sight of ourselves, Brittany. We lose sight of who we are at the expense to appease other people. And a man or a woman that's in your life, you do not have to lose yourself. They're going to be encouraging you to be a better you. You're going to be a friend. And just like any relationships, they could have been for a learning lesson. We learn. And God's never going to take you through something to learn a lesson that is not going to take you, that your other sisters are going to be able to benefit from. Because, your pain will be there, being able to help them come out of it. Because when relationships are hard, right? And when you're dealing with a significant other and you want so desperately to love and you want this to work, and you're looking at everybody else looking at you. So you've got your pressure of the relationship, everybody else's pressure looking in. Yeah, it's pressure. Don't put in social media, and then that's the pressure of life. And then you just learn that, oh, I'm going to settle. The devil is a lie. You don't have to settle. And I don't want anybody in their life to feel like I'm just going to settle with this, praying that they might change, and they never change. You can't change them. You can only change you. And you've got to bring it back to yourself. You deserve more. You deserve the king and the queen and the king. However you look, but you got to love yourself enough to know that you deserve more and that you are worthy of things being done differently. I'm big on communicating. Nobody likes to have conversations that are uncomfortable, but if you do not speak your truth from a place of love, you can speak your truth. You can speak about your pain and your hurt from a place of love without being angry, resentful, or mean. Yeah. And if they don't receive it, that's your answer. Wow. You've got to love yourself enough to know that you deserve to speak your truth, but do it from a place where they'll receive it. And if they can't receive it, then you know it's not you, it's them. And then you'll know the decision you have to make.
That's good. That's so good.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you.
I do see how God uses you so well. Just seeing you having your ministry and to your business, to writing, and being able to even empower those around you. You have been a blessing even to my organization, being able to
Oh,
come as a speaker. And I really do appreciate just you being able to still share who God is through it all, using
mm,
your story and sharing your story and being bold in that, which is a hard thing for some people to do.
mm,
And so I feel like when people see you or even seeing this video, it can encourage them to be bold in their story, to
mm.
share it and not feel like
Yes,
they're in shackles of feeling like they can't say something, even
yes.
if it feels like it's embarrassing or shame or guilt or any of those
Hmm.
things, but
Oh,
to push past those emotions. And so I really do appreciate you for being
mm,
um, who God told you to be, and also just being able to be obedient to when He tells you to do something and share stuff. Church is no longer four walls. You are the
mm,
walking representation of the church.
mm.
You might be the only Bible someone reads. And I wanted you to expand on that and the importance of walking out your purpose that God has given you and being that light in someone.
Yes. Oh gosh. I'm such a huge believer of that because the people that need to know who God is most of the time aren't going to come into the four walls. And that's kind of sad, but I really believe in what we've experienced just recently with the pandemic, which I call a plague, is really bringing people back together again. But we're going to do it differently.
Right.
It's about not about religion; it's about relationship. And I walk around downtown Indianapolis and I speak to the homeless if they need anything and whatnot. I'm in my heels, dressed up every day, but it's literally letting the love shine, the love show through, because it's not, it's about relationship. I shouldn't have to tell you that how much I love God. You should see it in how I
Yes.
respect you, and I want to know your name, and I do it from a place of love. I always say love is my thing, because some people just are a little freaked out, like, oh, because I am really bold with it, and because it does take courage, but I want to encourage everyone that everybody has that story and you do matter, and the trauma that you've experienced is real, but I don't want you to stay there, because I want to love you enough to know that you can get through this, because he's going to do something in you, to do something through you, to help others, right? We are suffocating each other. And again, I was just listening to a sermon the other day, and it was kind of like a joke, and it was like a pastor talking about Jesus coming back to earth, and he's like going, he sees a gentleman, he's got this cross around his neck, and he goes, hey, yeah, I see that you're wearing the cross, and he goes, but I'm not there anymore. Jesus rose from the dead. Wait, he's off the cross. He's off the cross and he's walking. He rose from the dead 3 days later. He's walking it out. He's walking out life. We are each doing our own ministry and our disciples to walk out in your love with the world. Get to know somebody's name. A homeless person, you don't have to give them any money. Give them an encouraging word. They don't even think they matter anymore. Get to know their name. I'm going to pray for you. I don't have anything to give you, but what's your name? I have Robert Earl and Doug downtown, and I'm like, when you let them know their name, that they matter, it sets something in them. We've lost hope in our people, and then we're shunning them because they're homeless. Some
Mm,
people are one check away from it, but we can't do that. We got to rally around them as a community.
yeah.
We, again, a walking representation. It's like the God in us. Let them see the God in the light, to bring that, I would say, to bring it to the dark places so bright that they'll be forced to see us, right?
Yes.
But they don't have to stay. We don't have to tell them that and hit them over the head with the Bible. No, 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 no. I'm going to show you who he is,
Yeah.
because he lives in me.
In the
He lives in
lifestyle.
you.
The
And that
lifestyle.
do your, yeah, and it's the circle of influence. We as people get so caught up in, like, oh my gosh, they're doing the same thing that I'm doing. How am I going to be successful? There's enough to go around. And your reach in your backyard is different than mine. So let's just all do what we have to do to help each other, because we're the resource for the need of the people.
Yeah.
It's about setting people free. Set
Yeah.
them free. They've been in bondage and stronghold too long.
And we
It's
all have
time.
we have all like the talents, the gifts to be able to help
Yes.
others become free and really live purposely and not just
Mhm.
like I'm just gonna survive. That's it. It is what it is. But really, really to be able to live again and live with a God's love and showing it to the world, not holding back. That's really good.
And Brittany, and only do your part. Don't take it on. I want to make that clear. We feel like we've got to fix it and rescue it and take it on. And no, you do your part by having the conversation and planting a seed of hope. And you let God show up and show out because you do your
That's
part.
that's so good you
Take
mentioned
it on.
that. That's so good you mentioned that because I am a person sometimes where I saw myself where it was like I'm trying to be the Holy Spirit at this point. And I had to step back. I had to step back and realize that sometimes God only used me to plant a seed. And I'm not supposed to be, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this, because then they're gonna get it. And it's like I cannot work my butt off and really I cannot like choose someone to have, salvation. Like they have to walk to it themselves.
Yep.
I can't make you have that. Like that's your doing, but I can plant the seed. I can plant the seed,
Yes.
and I think
Yes.
sometimes I do go too far because I care so much, and I'm like, I
Right.
want them to get it. But
What, yeah, and you, that's the God in you too. It's like you're like, well, God wants me to hold their hand and walk them through that. No, because believe it or not, you walking them through that, and even if you're not taking it on, there's a residue. And residue is like stuff that over time you get that it's too much because you've got your life and the call on your life and the things that you're doing and everything. And not to say that that's not important, but we think that God needs our help. God doesn't need our help. He chooses to use us.
that's true.
So if you don't do something that God has called you to do, he'll get somebody else to do it. He
Yeah,
will. Yeah,
yeah,
he doesn't need it. He chooses to use us. But try to be mindful and obedient, even if it stop trying to make sense of it. Literally, I feel like our minds, minds, and we force things and we question things. And is this it? And is this what this looks like? Is this how I'm supposed to do it? And again, I'm going to go back and say, if you got to ask that question, then be still. If you're praying and don't get any answers, that's the answer. Do nothing. Be still,
yeah,
because God does not operate in confusion. He's not the author of confusion. When he's in it, I promise you, first of all, it'll come to you. So you won't have to say, is this what God's talking about? No, it's going to come to you and you're going to say, this is it. This
yeah,
is the resource. This is who's going to write my grant. This is miracle, signs, wonders, and miracles are all coming so quickly right now, but be mindful that they're not going to look the way you have made them up in your head.
yeah.
We've got to stop putting God in a box.
Thank
Yes,
you. Thank you
absolutely.
so much for taking out time out of your day to just
Oh, it's
be
my
here
pleasure.
and to just share your story and being vulnerable to those who we don't even know exactly who's going to watch, but we know people will watch and knowing that
To
it
God be the glory, girl.
yes, impact those who are watching and whoever shares it. And I think this is important. This is what it's all about. And I want this platform to be used for other people to share the story and
Yes.
have the boldness and the confidence to be able to even do that,
Mm.
to allow God to even use them in spaces they can imagine. So I really do appreciate you for coming out today, and I pray that all is well with you and your family. And I just want to thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you, Brittany, and thank you, beautiful soul. I'm very proud of you. Thank you for this platform that's going to touch people's lives. And I'm just really proud of you for birthing it. I know things may not always be easy, but just know that you're impacting a lot of people, and the people that you're impacting are impacting people. So it's a domino effect. And, God gets glorified in all of it. So
Yes,
thank you. Thank you.
thank you. Bye.
Bye, honey.